Welcome to the Rural Pastor Podcast with your host, Pastor Andy Addis.
You plant the seeds in the ground, though the fields have long been brown. But Lord, when will your harvest come in? You're giving all you've got to give in the place where you've been sent. But will this labor make much difference in the end? Will no one ever know? Sometimes you feel so all alone. Like the prophet Jeremiah, you may be the one to go to the dying and the broken with a message of hope. To that church on the corner of that forgotten little town, with a room of empty pews where his love can still be found. You may never know of all the seeds you sow, but it just takes one willing soul to make him known.
And greetings to the Rural Pastor Podcast. We are actually not in studio, so you may hear some funny business going on. We've got music and crowds all around us. We found the quietest corner that we could here at the National SBC annual meeting. But I have a very special guest and a friend that we wanted to make sure we captured this interview and the opportunity for us to be invested in this conversation before we got away. And since we live halfway across the country from one another, this is going to be the best time and place to do this. I've been friends with David for probably 2, 3, 4 years, something like that.
Yeah, we met at the NAMB building in Alpharetta, Georgia.
And not everybody knows NAMB. That's North American Mission Board.
Yes.
And we're actually doing something else, but now you and I both serve on the same team, the Replant team, which is specializing in helping churches that are needing to make a comeback. If we could just...
Yeah,
that's the category, right? Needing to make a comeback.
And we get to we're people from two different worlds, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
And isn't it amazing that the body of Christ brings us together so that we can serve God together in this way?
Well, we are absolutely on the same team doing that, but we have different jobs. I'm the rural guy, and you are the Spanish language. What is the actual title that you have?
I do everything. Being bilingual, I'm really allowed to be in different spaces, which is something that's beautiful. But specifically, I'm working with Latinos, Spanish speakers across the United States.
And you are based out of?
California.
So on the Rural Pastor Podcast, you're kind of an interloper.
Yeah, but I am in Bakersfield. There's only 1 million people. So I think compared to everywhere else in California,
yep.
We like to do a lot of farming, a lot of hunting, fishing. So
I know some people out there going, in California?
Yeah, it's really rare, but we're there.
Well, there's more than just the geography that brings me to the place I want to put David here. But would you do me a favor? We want to get to know you a little bit. Give us first, middle, last name, family history, and ministry background.
Yeah.
Just kind of give us everything about you so that we can get to know you a little
Awesome.
bit.
So David Quiroa, it's spelled Quiroa.
And do you roll the R?
Well, you don't have to. I don't, but you can if you want.
Okay.
The way I tell people is pretend there's a key, then you row, and then you say, Quiroa. So that's the best way to do it.
We'll take it.
So raised in California, both parents are from Central America. I grew up in two worlds at the same time. So for Latino people, I'm probably very Americanized. And for non-Latino people, I'm very Latino. So I'm growing up in this space where I kind of belong to both. And it's at first, it felt like I was in this empty space. But now, through the Lord's providence and my experience, I feel like I'm more of a bridge between two cultures, multiple languages, which has been great. Now here's something that's going to be a little interesting. I spent a few years in a state called West Virginia. I don't know if you've ever
One of
heard
the most rural states in the country, believe it or not.
Yes, and I was in southern West Virginia, and for a few years, my name wasn't David, it was David. And when I got back to California, I couldn't get the Y out. So I was David for a long time, and people go at California, Brian? No, David. Brandon? No, David. And I don't know if you've heard of a bluegrass group called Chosen Road.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of them. They came out to California, we met. They brought me out to West Virginia, and I married Jonathan Buckner's sister, but he set me up. So the best setup ever.
So I don't know if you were able to identify it, but the opening music for the Rural Pastor podcast is an original Chosen Road song.
Yeah.
So your family helped write that.
Oh, nice. I think Zach is the one that's singing it, right?
Yes. That's right.
Right. So I didn't know what bluegrass music was till I met these guys. And then I came out here, and when I met my father-in-law, we all decided to go shooting for the first one. Great father-in-law, takes the potential boyfriend shooting. And as my wife's name is Katie, and as we went shooting, I was getting Katie's shotgun and bag, and he says, David, what are you doing? And I said, I'm helping Katie with her guns. And he said, Katie can't carry her own gun. She shouldn't be out here shooting. And I said, this is different, okay. And now I have the best in-laws I could ask for, and they actually come out to California and help with an Espanol VBS every year.
That's amazing. Now, and it's not just you and Katie now.
No, it's not. I think it's just Katie and I now, and we have Eva Rose, which is our little daughter. She just turned 2.5, so I'm learning a lot of new lessons in life.
Yes, you are. That's fantastic. Well, I'm thrilled. We want to get to know you a little bit because people may still be wondering, why is a guy from Bakersfield, California, even though he has Chosen Road roots, which is a lot of props on this particular podcast.
Hey, nice.
But why are you here? You and I, we've talked about Spanish language work in Rurality, but you dropped a stat on me that was mind-blowing. And we talk all the time about the number of people in Rurality and the fact that the 60 million people in Rurality occupy 98% of the geography. It's a huge mission field with huge obstacles. But what was the stat you dropped on me?
Yeah, out of there's 5.8 million Hispanics, Latinos, individual that actually live in rural America, representing about 10.3% of rural people.
That is mind-blowing, because what that tells us is that a tithe of the rural community in America is Latino.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you want to be an effective gospel minister, if you want to have a real plan for reaching rurality, you can't ignore that.
Not at all. The nations are at our doorstep, and I'm sure now. I was in this place called McDowell, West Virginia. It's a little county down in the holler. See, I'm getting it, right?
You got it.
And even down in those areas, we were sending Latinos to do missionary work. Americanized Latino is bilingual, so we can function in both at the same time. But then I realized that South Dakota was getting a big amount of Latinos, and Latinos in Montana, and a Spanish church started in Alaska. And then you and I have been talking about this for a few years. How can we bring this conversation that the mission field is coming to America across all states? It's a mind-blowing statistic, but it's a even bigger mission imperative for those of us who really feel like the church is the answer to the question. And what is the question? Well, it's every question. Whatever's going to lead to the gospel, whatever's going to lead to ministry that leads to the gospel, whatever's going to lead to teaching that leads to preaching that leads to the gospel. And if those are the numbers, then we have to approach. And we're not going to claim that we have the silver bullet, like that there's one answer. We've talked about this. In our network of churches where I'm the lead pastor, one of our locations is a bilingual location. And they translate me every weekend. And I love that, and it's good. But that is not the best way. It is a way, but there are better ways that we all need to be open and available to. And so that's where we want to open the door to this conversation. So a couple of things.
I want to do a high and a low moment with you because you've been in ministry for a while. You gave us kind of your geographic background, but tell us a little bit of your ministry background, and then I want to get a high and low.
Yeah, so when I was 14, I started seeing a lot of my friends leave the church, and I thought to myself, my friends are going to do the things that I know God does not want us to do. I didn't grow up in a church necessarily that was preaching a lot of Bible, and we can get into that a little bit later on. But I had this love for the Lord, this passion for God, this passion for the gospel. I just did not know how to reach my friends. I was growing up in a small Latino church. So at the age of 15 now, I had a youth pastor named Hector, and he wasn't, I grew up in a very small church, so he was a youth volunteer, and he asked me to show up on a Wednesday night, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna let me preach. I feel called, I'm gonna do it. And I showed up to the church, and he handed me a bucket and gloves. And I said, hey, what is this for? He said, oh, we need you to clean the bathroom. And I said, oh, okay, I thought I was preaching. And he said, in Spanish and in English, because he's bilingual, who gave you that idea? Well, me, I guess. So I remember scrubbing that toilet with such anger. And then after that, the second week, the Lord had really worked in my heart. And one of the things I can't forget is I came to serve. Shouldn't you do the same? Oh. And I remember the second week I was cleaning the toilet. See, I'm even getting a little bit of chills now thinking about it. Just you brought me back to a moment, and I was weeping over the throne, the toilet throne, and I was just weeping as I was cleaning this toilet for the opportunity that I got to serve His church. And since then, it has become about serving the church. I'm not looking to, in fact, I don't want to be famous. I don't know any guy that would want to be famous. Why? It brings so much drama. I just want to serve Jesus. Amen. I just want to serve the church. So a lot of the early ministry in my life was unlearning these goals that we set ourselves maybe as young pastors.
What success is versus what success isn't.
Exactly. And I think that God's church should be a serving church. And we are primarily a Hispanic church because of the language. But in our congregation now, we have people who don't speak Spanish, and we serve them just as well. We have African American, we have Asian, just everything. Our VBSs that we do, it's for the community. We're not just a Spanish church, we are the church. And not the church, but we're part of the church reaching the community. So if I could base my, at the end of my life, I hope my tombstone says, "Here laid David, a handsome pastor." No, I'm sorry, that's definitely not going to say that. But I just hope it says that I lived a balanced life, that I served my family well, and that I served the Lord's bride well.
Brother, we brought you here to talk about Spanish language work, but you're just dropping mics all over the place about life and ambitions and the right heart. Anyway, really good stuff. We're going to need to have you come back and maybe talk about mission focus at some point too, which would be great.
I would love to.
On our topic for today, I would love to do some highs and lows. What's one of great difficulty in Spanish language work that anyone should expect?
Not enough resources, and I'm not even talking about money. I'm just talking about books and good books. The Prosperity Gospel has done a great job in flooding the Spanish libraries with just junk, if I could say it that way. So sometimes when we're working, at least myself, when I'm working with Hispanic preachers, that is changing, so I want to preface with that. A lot of the times is I just have to get back to the basics.
Wow.
Who is Christ and what has Christ done? And so that's when you're getting into this, you may think there's just not enough, and guess what? You're right. But the tide is changing.
We talk about the three big things in rural ministry is isolation, vocational identity, and low resources. And so that's a norm in rurality. But what you're saying is it's not normal low resources, like communities don't have much, churches don't have much. You're saying that it's not even at their disposal.
Yeah.
Because there aren't the translated works, there aren't Spanish works that are evangelically directionally pointed.
Yes. And so we started a discipleship program out of the need to create something. And we walk alongside one-on-one for 12 weeks. And we're just doing really the basics of, for us specifically Southern Baptist, doctrine. And let's talk about, here's a constant baptism. Sometimes it takes me years to somebody who says they're Christian, they believe, they're on fire for the Lord, but they were baptized as a child. So if we are clannish, Grandma said it, so it must be true. And if Grandma said it, then no. And you know how many times I have to tell somebody your grandma was wrong?
Oh gosh!
and then my tires are sloshed now.
You're for a fight when you go down that road. That's right.
Yeah, but
don't be talking about Mima.
I know you can't talk about Mima. That's so funny. But that has been a hard one. Just even talking
resources.
about baptism and resources. Yeah.
Okay, let's flip the script then. What is something unique or beautiful that you've experienced in rural Hispanic work?
The love of community and love in community. So, out in rural areas, there's a banding of brothers, if you can say it that way. And man, I have never gone to a rural house or a rural area and there isn't extra food already ready for me. And you could be family even if you're not the same blood or the same color.
That's beautiful because that's culturally a piece. So that would be if you do a Hispanic work in California or Kansas, you're going to probably experience that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. When I do home visits, how long are your visits? Would you say?
Oh gosh, as an introvert pastor, 10, 15 minutes. 10,
15 minutes? Mine are minimum 2 hours.
Minimum 2 hours.
Yeah, and if I don't eat at least 6 times between that time,
I don't know that you're selling it for some of our guys.
No. Yeah. Well, that's good food.
That's great.
And they'll learn. Our churches learn, but it's such as like the man of God per se, or the pastor is making time for me. I'm going to make time for him.
Oh, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you could expect in that kind of work. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about a couple things, because the key listener here at the Rural Pastor Podcast is the leader of the rural church, and they're seeing the world around them and how to respond to that. And we're looking at it saying more than 10% of rural communities now we're seeing Hispanics in those environments. Yeah. So how do we respond there? What are some key cultural dynamics in that work, in that language work, that Anglo churches might overlook or misunderstand if they wanted to jump in?
Yeah, so, there's no simple way to say this, but so I'm just going to say straight out, not all of them are Mexican.
Okay, yeah.
I pastor a Hispanic or a Spanish-speaking congregation of 17 different cultures in 17 different countries and 17 different points of views and 17 different, they're not all from one place.
So just people who are geographically inept, which many of us are because we grew up going to public school, right?
Yes.
Give us some examples. Where are some places people are from that are Latino but aren't Mexican?
Yeah, Guatemala, Salvador. Then you get into the lower ones, Peru. Then you get into the islands. You get into some Cubans. Just everywhere. And there's a different point of view from each one of them. Even my Spanish. So sometimes when I'm preaching, I go, hey, this is the way I learned it. I hope I'm not saying a bad word in your Spanish. But it's really, and it's not that hard to navigate once you come with an understanding. Hey, tell me about your culture, or where are you from? Because growing up, everyone assumed that because I'm in California, I must be Mexican. But my parents are from Guatemala.
Oh. Well, so when you say that, I remember taking some classes back in college that we call it Spanish, but we're actually taught
Castellano.
instead of it's Mexican versus.
Well, you're actually depending. I don't know. In California, it was Castellano.
Castellano?
Which it comes out of Spaniard, Spanish. It'd be like saying English from London. That was really bad. That was really bad.
That was a bad accent. Don't do that again.
Yeah, I will
David.
never do that again. Versus English from California.
Okay. Okay. So the reason I even bring that up is it's not as simple.
No.
And so what you're saying is one of the things that we overlook is that there's not one group of Latinos from one place with one background. And so that could be not only ineffective, but offensive.
Yeah, and there's pockets. So like I know in South Carolina, there's pockets of Guatemalans, and right now outside of our town, there's a pocket of Mixtecos. And Mixtecos actually do not speak Spanish, but they're from Mexico. But they have to learn Spanish, and Mixtecos is the largest unreached people group in America right now.
Good night. Good night. You're dropping knowledge bombs on us. This is really good. So how does, let's say, if you wanted to do church planning or church outreach to Spanish-speaking individuals, how is that different? Like if you read a book, it's probably going to be in a suburban, urban context.
Yeah.
How would that be different in rurality? What are a couple things that you could help the rural pastor who has a heart to meet the nations that are at our doorstep?
Yeah.
What are some things that might be a little different in rurality?
Yeah. So right now there's a very different, at least for 2025, climate change, and many Latinos, maybe in rural areas, may not be as open right now because of everything that's going on, and not just
country's
now.
in a little upheaval right now.
Yeah, and it's been something that's going on. Maybe I would say over. Really after did you guys have something called COVID?
We had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But it only lasted about 3 weeks in Kansas.
Well,
I don't know about that out there. You in California really took it serious.
We did, yeah. And one day they said we can't sing, and we said everything that breathe, praise the Lord. And but that caused a lot of people leave California, and they went into these rural areas. So now there's Latinos in rural areas who only knew how to function in California. They don't know how to function in these areas. Wow. So they come from a different climate. They come from a place where everything's super expensive, and they're in this area. So the approach really would be, approach with some genuineness. Andy, I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me fired. You ready for this?
Well, don't get fired.
Well, don't share this. No, I'm going to share it as much as you want. Taco Bell's not real Mexican food.
You know what? I think we're in agreement. We're good there.
The reason I say that is because if you want ungenuineness, you can find it. And sometimes...
You mean like a caricature?
Yeah. And sometimes I know Taco Bell's not real food, and I'm sitting in the drive-thru and I'm going, why am I doing this to myself? I already feel bad, but it's going to be satisfying for a little bit as I'm tasting it. And that's what ungenuineness does. It leaves a pretty bad taste, So most Latino people, especially in rural areas, tend to be very first generational. It may take a few times of, hey, how's it going? And they may not know how to react to that.
I'm trying to interpret what you're saying here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like maybe the first step for church isn't start a service, but have relationships.
Exactly.
Dive into the community and get some friendships.
Yeah.
Make it an intentional thing that your kids play the same sports together.
Yeah.
And hang out together.
Do life together.
Before you start a program. So that's on track.
That would be it. In most small rural towns across Central America, the pastor is the pastor of the people. Not necessarily, I'll say it in Spanish, el pastor del pueblo, and pueblo means town.
More of a parish mentality.
Yeah, so everyone knew the man of God in town, and the man of God knew them, and there's something beautiful about that. That when we go into our neighborhoods, sometimes we feel that I'm a pastor to my church. Yes, I get it, but there's also so many unbelievers that do not attend your church that you can kind of pastor as well, and
meet needs in Jesus' name.
Yeah, that's it.
Man, I love that. We kind of approach one of the questions that we have planned, which is how do you begin to make an impact? I think we just say this, that try not to have a program before you have a passion.
Yeah, right? That's it. Perfect. Love it.
Yeah. So let's talk about some collaboration, some gaps that we find there. There's actually, I've heard you talk, and I want to do this before we get into the rest of it. You have some categories that I just heard you say off the cuff, which I know means you've done them before, but I don't want this to be offensive to churches that have different ministries or different connections, but you have some very real ways of looking at churches that are already existing, doing some kind of Spanish level connection or work, and you categorize those. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I'm actually finishing a book that I'm calling Juntos Together. Juntos means together, so
okay.
together. And really, and this book is going to be both in English and Spanish, and really is how to work with a language church. It can be not only Spanish, but I think we can do it in many languages. So for the sake of this, let's talk about English and Spanish. As a language. This is a language thing. And let's imagine there's one church building. And I have separated into, are we one building, one church? That means that the DNA of the church flows into languages. Or are we one building renters? These are our tenants. These are the people we rent to. These are the people that don't lock the door on time. These are the people that broke the mic stand. These are the people, they're just our renters.
It's a landlord-renter relationship.
Yes, and here's something interesting. One time I drove up to a church that had a sign in Korean, a sign in Chinese, and a sign in Spanish, and a sign in Portuguese, and then a sign in English. They were renting to 4 different congregations.
Wow.
Because they needed to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
So there was this, we're not one church, multiple languages. We are one church plus renters. And then there's the other one, we're one church, this is our mission field. You know, that language, poor little guys, we're helping them. You know, they don't have much. When we do that, I would want to say, be careful when we call other believers or treat other believers like the mission field. But also, also be careful that as we are doing good, we're setting up for failure. One thing that I
long-term
teach,
failure.
Long-term failure. You know, here's something I learned in West Virginia. I can teach you to fish, or I can give you a fish, right? And we want to create partnerships, and real partnerships means real sacrifices together. And sometimes we want to be the sacrificing, the bigger church. We want to be the one that sacrifices, and you don't experience any of the weight. So I think
we want to feel good about the ministry that we're involved in.
Yes, and we let them use our space, and we provide for them. Here's the reality: a Latino Spanish-speaking church will need longer help than an Anglo church or an English church, or just because of the way it is. One of our campuses, 90% are field workers, and there's not going to be a huge amount of ties that come in, or the building sustained. So we combined 2 campuses. And then in my other campus, I have Latino doctors, Latino lawyers, Latino, and that campus is helping this campus,
So the next question I had, I want to morph it a little bit because it's in line with this. Let's just say you're a church and you're in a rural context, and you have a connection to a rural ministry, you're doing rural ministry, you're sharing rural ministry, but you find yourself in one of those 2 categories that obviously aren't ideal, right? Those last 2. What do you do to move towards being one church, one ministry, that one thing flowing? How do you get away from these maybe not even okay, less than perfect patterns of ministry and move towards a more holistic, Jesus-focused, we are one church, we are one people mentality?
First of all, are you compatible? You know, sometimes we put people in position maybe because they speak the language, or maybe because they're the only ones that are available. So it would take down, let's sit and let's break some bread. We call it pan dulce, and coffee, and let's build a relationship there first. Maybe pastor, you take out the other pastor on a family vacation. This is wild. This is wild.
That's going deep, brother.
This is going deep. This is going deep because they need to spend some time with your family, and they need to capture that vision. And maybe our families hang out once together. We're not even involving the church yet. We're just involving you and I. We're building relationship. One of the things that I love about our church, I was a youth pastor in English for many years, and then I saw a need in Spanish, so we started Spanish. And but the staff gets together, we have barbecues together, and in California, the only time I eat Mexican food is when I'm at church gatherings.
Oh gosh.
That's why they'll say, David, we're bringing a taco truck. And I said, kid, we have some Indian food or something? Like, why the taco guy again? You know, and but we're intentional in building relationships.
Yeah.
Our kids are growing up together. So in order to not be one church renters, one church maybe mission field focused, let's just be brothers in Christ.
Man, I just love that. And to get there, it's an intentionality. It's about, again, we're going back to the same thing you said before. You got to have a relationship, got to have a passion. So let's back this up. I've been talking a lot about let's plant a church, let's partner with a church, let's do a ministry. What about just recognizing the fact that you want to be a church that's open to have one church with multiple languages, multiple ethnicities in that? What are some of the unintentional barriers that established churches might be putting up that hinder Hispanic believers from connecting and staying with you?
Yeah, one of them is let them do them. They know what they're
explain
doing.
that. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, they're the Latino group, so they can.
Oh, so you're saying that's the barrier? You let them do their own thing.
Just let them be them. They get it. You know, they understand. You know, one of the things that.
Before you move on, I just want to make sure you're saying that the barrier is that, yeah, they're here, but they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Let them do, and that's the barrier that keeps them from you.
100%, because
instead of feeling like you're making space for them, you're actually excluding them.
Yes. I once had somebody said, "Oh, we're one church," because they heard me do the teaching, and I said, "Oh yeah, what do you guys do together?" And they're like, "Once every 3 months we do a potluck, and they bring good food." And I said, "That's great." How are you one church? You know, once a year we do this one thing together. It's September. It's Latino month.
Oh my.
Let's do something together.
Yeah.
How about let's just serve the Lord together. Let's be co-laborers together year round.
You know, I think that one of the things that, and let me suggest this, and you tell me if this is the right track or not, and I'm willing to be rebuked if this is not the right direction. But I live in middle of Kansas, and it is not very ethnically diverse. Mm-hmm. But there is, because of schools and because of new cultural shifts, that there is, and we recognize that. But we don't want to placate. We don't want to be disingenuous, like you were saying. But we want to open the doors to learn, to be a part of that community. So we just really tried to reflect what you see on stage, what you see as greeters, as not being the traditional Southern Baptist, one color, one style, one size fits all. Mm-hmm. And currently, if I've got the numbers right, in our little town, our Sunday morning service is almost double the ethnicity rate of our county. Wow. That we have almost a double ethnicity rate on our Sunday morning service that we do in the county, which means that without doing anything more intentional than saying, it's not just us, it's everybody. You all have a chance to be on the worship team. We're all in this together.
Unless they can't sing.
What's that?
Unless they can't sing.
No. You need to be able to sing, right? But we intentionally wanted to say that the body of Christ is diverse.
Yeah.
And the answer to that has been for us that there's a diversity that we couldn't have made happen. You can't plan for that. But we don't have separate ministries. We're just one church doing that.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. Do you think of heaven often?
I'm getting older. I think of it more often than I used to.
We want to go to this place that we don't really have too much information about, right?
Right.
And to me, heaven is in the presence of the Lord. That's just think about that for a minute, and how beautiful that is. And you looked at Paul. Paul was like, "Hey, like I give my life, I give up eternity for if these Jews have come to get to know you."
Yeah.
And when I think of heaven, how can I replicate that on earth a little bit? There's just things I'm not going to be able to replicate. But one of the things might be a worship service where there's every tribe, every nation, every tongue singing, "Holy, holy, holy, holy is the Lord."
Amen.
To me, to do a service or to be a church that anyone feels comfortable is phenomenal. It's the part of that culture of that church. And there's places where you won't be able to do it simply because the technology's not there maybe, or there's not enough people. I'm not necessarily saying you need to start Spanish services. There's a lot of Latinos are used to being in two worlds at the same time. So sometimes it's just a translation. Here's something that I do at our church. I'll find out how the Salvadorians say a little word, and then I find out how the Cubans say a little word, and sometimes I'll throw in a little word from a Cuban perspective, and they'll go, "Pastor, I didn't know you knew how to say that." Well, I said it because I thought you would enjoy it.
I learned it.
I learned it for you. And when we're doing worship together or we're in service together, man, that's a beautiful thing to look out and just see people from every tribe, every nation, every tongue. Earlier today, I met Korean missionaries to America.
Well, first of all, that's beautiful, and that's also America. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But beautiful, like you said. It just it is a reflection of heaven right here on earth. And boy, I don't think any of us got it on lock, but boy, you got it a lot further down the road than anybody that I know, and I'm thankful. I want to ask you one more question, and just for this time, and we're going to have you back.
It'd be my pleasure.
We're going to need to do this again. But what would it look like if established churches and new churches work together more intentionally? Meaning, what if there were an established rural church that worked with a church that was not their mission, but another a Spanish-speaking church that was planting a new church? What would happen if they worked together more intentionally? And is that a good thing? What I'm getting at is it a positive thing to create those partnerships, or do we need to be independent? What is the beauty or the problem with a more intentional, established church working with a new church?
So let's look at this. There's something that every Christian man and Christian woman have in common, is that they're a man or a woman before they were Christian. And sometimes we have to look at chemistry. Could we work well? Do we believe? Do we have the same doctrinal statements?
Yeah.
Do we agree on primary issues, secondary, tertiary? We'll figure it out later. But when we look at those things, first let's look at our compatibility. Can we partner, and where can we partner? And then number two would then be what does our neighborhood need? And then maybe once you start praying through that, look at your neighborhood. Maybe they need English classes over there, but then on your side, maybe they need Spanish classes.
Yeah.
It's creating partnerships. Andy, my desire one day is to send out pastors two and two, one English, one Spanish. And I'm going to be very careful how I say this. I don't want Latinos to just be the Spanish guy. Especially if they're striving with education, maybe they have a master's degree, maybe they have a doctorate degree. But I would love to see one day an English and Spanish speaker be co-pastors.
At the same level, with the same calling, just reaching different people groups.
Yeah.
But doing it together. That's beautiful, brother. That is a picture to paint.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of work to do. I don't want anybody to listen to this podcast and think, okay, we're going to go out and plant a Spanish church.
Yeah, no.
We're going to start. What I think needs to happen, if I can hear this correctly, is we need to, number one, recognize that incredible stat that even in rurality, that we need to investigate that diversity. And if it's in our community, what are we doing? What is our answer? And the second, before you do anything else, just become friends, be intentionally relational, and open the door to actually letting God put a passion in you because you've learned to love your neighbor down the street.
Yeah, that's great. Somebody once said to me, hey, David, great to meet you. I want you to know that I don't see color. And I said, why? I said, you're going to look right past me or what? And he goes, no, I just want you to know that I don't see color. It's all right, bro. Like, it's totally fine, We are different, but our differences can bring us together.
Yeah, man, I am the whitest guy you ever met.
I met some whiters, but...
Have you really? But you and I, we're friends, and the reason that we're friends is because we don't pretend anything.
Yeah.
I am who I am, you are who you are,
yeah.
and I love you, brother.
And I love you too, man. I love that God has put you where He has put you, and the ability that we can work together, because we have a common goal, and is to get people to know our Savior.
Amen. And that's the centerpiece, that's the pivot point. Okay, before we wrap this up, and this is longer than most of our podcasts, but it's worthy of it, and I'm sure we're going to hear that from those who listen. Help me out. How do people get in touch with you? What are some resources? I know you have some podcast stuff. You have some places. I would love people to be able to connect with you.
Yeah, so as of right now, I have the only podcast in Spanish in the world, it looks like, on revitalization. In fact,
church revitalization in Spanish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy part, is we have people in the Netherlands that listen weekly, Russia.
Wait, Netherlands?
Bro, I am shocked.
You're talking my people now.
Yep. We have some people all over the world down in Central. I mean, it is picking up pretty well. And it's called Revive. And Revive is spelled the same way as you spell revive. Same lettering, but you just it sounds more passionate in Spanish.
It does.
And then if they go to our North American Mission Board Replant page, there's also an Espanol section that they can
and that'll connect them directly to you and your resources, right? So if they're looking for the podcast on any platform, it's Revive or Revive. Revive.
Hey, that's really good.
I grew up in Southern California, remember?
Yes.
Revive, but we would look for David Quiroa to make sure they find you.
Yes.
And it's Quiroa.
Hey, perfect. That's how we do it.
And then for you to find those resources, it's NAMB.net/replanters.
Yep.
And then there is
it says Espanol, right?
And you'll be able to find all those. Can't thank you enough for your time and your friendship, brother. It's just beautiful. And we'll schedule something in the near future. We got to talk some more.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. God bless you.
Many blessings. Guys, thank you for spending some time with us, and be prayerful about what God may want to do in you, through you, and in your community. There are obviously opportunities we knew nothing about, and now it's time to grow. Many blessings, and we'll see you again real soon on another edition of the Rural Pastor Podcast.
Like the prophet Jeremiah, you may be the one to go to the dying and the broken with a message of hope. To that church on the corner of that forgotten little town, with a room of empty pews where His love can still be found. You may never know of all the seeds you sow, but it just takes one willing soul to make Him known.
Thank you for joining us on the Rural Pastor Podcast. Special thanks to Chosen Road for our incredible theme music, and to 180 Digital for their corporate sponsorship and making all the technical things possible. Rural Church Leader, we want to remind you that your work is important, that you are important, and that you are not alone. See you again soon for another edition of the Rural Pastor Podcast.